Hi, I'm back for social studies. Okay, class. So last week we talked about Sparta, right? And we learned how boys and girls grew up in Sparta. What are the things they do? Okay, so now we learned that Spartans train more um, train their children to like prepare their children to be good soldiers, right? So they spend more time training physically, okay, than reading and writing, correct? So and even the girls in Sparta, they can go to school and they can participate in sports, right? And like the Athens. So we were able to compare life in Athens and life in Sparta. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about a new topic, which is the Olympic Games. Okay, have you watched Olympic Games in your TV class? Have you watched it? Me, I watch Olympic Games, okay? Especially Winter Olympics. There's two kinds of Olympic class that we have in our modern Olympic. So, there's Summer Olympics and Winter Olympics. I love watching Winter Olympics because I like the ski events and snowboarding. I love those, and ice skating I love. So that's why I watch Winter Olympics more than the Summer Olympics. But of course, I watch Summer Olympics too. So uh, the modern Olympics that we watch on TV class are based on ancient games. Okay, so specifically in ancient Greece, it originated there, and specifically the city-state of Olympia. Okay, so Olympia is one of the city-state in ancient Greece class. So this city-state. So if you look at your map, you have your map with you, so you can see it there. So right here is Sparta. Up a little up is the city-state of Olympia. Okay, so it originated there, and even the name Olympic comes from this Olympia. All right. Now, so this event is were being held in Olympia as a religious, activities. It's like a festival in honor of Zeus. You remember that ancient Greece really loves holding festival in honor of their gods and goddesses. Remember? Um, so this is one of those, like a festival in honor of Zeus. So at first they only have one event, okay, and it's a foot race. Okay, so local athletes, like athletes that live in Olympia, they were the one, competing for this. But then as it grows, more and more, athletes came to join the event, and then as more athletes come for the event, and then they made more events. Then they included javelin throwing. A javelin class, it's like a spear, okay, this one. So they would throw it, and whoever throw the farthest, that's the winner. So, and also they have of course, they have wrestling, they have boxing, they have running, jumping, okay, and also they have horse racing and chariots racing. Chariot, it's a chariot class. I'll show you first. Okay, this one, chariot. So it's like a carriage that is being pulled by horse or horses. Two or more horses, and the men or two or more men is riding in a carriage, and it's being pulled while the horse is running. So that's a chariot. Okay, so it's very famous in the ancient time class. Even in wars they use chariots. Okay, so they have this kind of race too. And an athlete that win a race, okay, they brought honor to their city state, or they bring glory to their city state. Okay, even these days, class, in like the Olympics that we watch on TV, so athletes came from different countries, right? So when they win an event, then it's an honor for the country where they came from. Okay, now the Olympic Games in ancient Greece were held every 4 years. So it doesn't happen every year, but every 4 years um, they would have this. Now let's imagine how an Olympic athlete, okay, might have spent the time at the game. Okay, so let's imagine how. How do you think, if you are an Olympic athlete, how do you think your day would be in the Olympic Games? Can you imagine? Close your eyes and imagine it. Okay. Now, let's read. I'm going to read to you uh, the story of an athlete. Okay, that explain things that happens during the Olympic Games. Okay, so we will be following the story of Theodorus. Okay, Theodorus was an athlete. Okay, so in English this is Theodore. Okay, Theodorus. So he was an athlete. Okay, and we will be following him. All right, you ready? I'm going to be reading. Okay, so Theodorus stood in the large crowd and watched a juggler toss brightly colored balls. He munched on a piece of sausage and looked at the morning sun. It was still low in the sky, which meant that he had some time before he needed to go to the stadium for the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games. Now he made his way through the crowded grounds to the temple of Zeus. A poet stood in front of the temple reading a poem about brave things Greeks had done. Okay, so he was getting himself ready for the opening ceremony, okay, of the Olympic Games. Now, soon the opening ceremonies were about to begin. Theodorus hurried to join the other athletes in the stadium. When all the athletes were gathered together, each swore to Zeus that he was born in Greece, that he was a free man, and that he had done nothing against the gods. After that, the priests made sacrifices to Zeus and the other gods. Thousands of excited spectators stood in the stadium and watched. So, as Theodorus preparing himself to go for the opening ceremony, so he stumbled on a few things. He saw a juggler juggling balls, and then he passed by into on his way to to the stadium. He was able to see. He saw a poet reading poems. Okay, to Zeus. All right. Now, in the opening ceremonies, like even in the modern Olympic Games that we watch on TV, class, they also held opening ceremonies before the actual events happen, like before the competition began. So they first do the opening ceremonies, and in ancient Greece, like Theodorus stories here, at the opening ceremonies they would okay swore to Zeus. Okay, they would swear to Zeus like this. swore to Zeus that with three things, okay? First, that they were citizens of, no, not citizen, that they were born in Greece. Second, that they were free men. That means they were not slaves. They were never slaves. And the third one is that they had done nothing against the gods. That means they were really good boy, good people. Okay? So those three things they need to swear to Zeus before they can begin the competition. Okay? So Theodorus and other athletes had been here in Olympia for a month, training and getting ready for the competition. Now the games were finally beginning. So these athletes were there for a month already, training and getting themselves ready. So like in the Olympic Games that we watch on TV class, you know, those athletes, they don't go there on the day of the competition, okay? They go to the place where, to the country that hosts the Olympic Games, to train way ahead of time, like a month or more than a month. Maybe others were more than 2 months or 3 months. Okay, training and, you know, learning and mastering their skills. So when for the time of the competition. Okay, so same thing in ancient Greece class. They went to Olympia ahead of time, you know, a month before the competition. Now, many months earlier, messages had come from Olympia to all parts of Greece. The messages had announced the dates for the next Olympic Games. Okay, so they make an announcement many months earlier before the Olympic Games. So all the Greek city-states often fought with each other. They all agreed not to fight during the Olympic Games, okay? So during the weeks before and after the games, people could travel safely to and from the games, okay? In any part of the Greek city-states, okay? So even Greek soldiers stopped fighting and came to watch to compete. So you remember that the ancient Greece is made up of different Greek city-states, right? Where they have their own ruler and they have their own laws. They exist independently from each other. Now, because of that, they also fight against each other, these city-states. And they fight, but then when time for Olympic Games, like everything stops. So they stop fighting, okay, and they just want to enjoy the Olympic Games. So they would go, like even soldiers class, they would go and watch the games, or they would even compete without worries that someone will kill them, or someone will, because of the war. Because during Olympic Games, fighting stops, okay? Now, men and boys had come from more than 100 Greek city-states for the Olympic Games. Theodorus came from a small city-state in the north. Okay, he had walked for 2 weeks to get to Olympia. Oh my God, he walked 2 weeks, class, to get to Olympia for the competition. So, well, he was a runner, so it's okay for him to walk, maybe. But that's a lot of walking, class. It's very exhausting, right? Can you walk 2 weeks to get to a place? Well, before, there's no car, there's no plane, okay, for you to get there very quickly. Not right now that in hours you can be in different place. But before, they probably could use horses. But if you don't have a horse, then you get to walk. Walk for 2 weeks. Oh no. Now, Theodorus was a runner. He had trained hard for many years and had won the competition in the city-state. Now, his event was one of the men's foot races. Okay, foot races. It's a race where you use your feet. Okay, like running, jumping, whatever that involves feet. Now, but the men's foot races were still 2 days away. So, from the opening ceremony, it will be 2 days before his event. Now Theodorus stood with the other spectators at the horse race track and watched the horse and chariots races. Now the thing about this is because his event will be in 2 days, so he could watch all the other races. Okay. Now the chariots races were exciting and dangerous. Some of the chariots lost control and flipped over when they tried to make the turn halfway through the race. Some of the losers would be badly injured or even killed, but it was a risk they were willing to take because the winner of the race, each race man, would be famous and honored by his city-state. So some of the events can really be very dangerous, class, especially the uh, chariot races, okay? Because it involves animals and it can get out of control, okay? And and because the person uh, and that race, he's not really riding the horse, but he is riding the carriage that the horse is pulling. So that's why it becomes very dangerous, because it can get out of control, and it can flip over, and you know they can get hurt or they can die too. So that's dangerous. And even when you're watching Olympic Games in on TV, class, you would see some of the athletes getting hurt because of the danger with the sports that they're trying to compete with, right? Like snowboarding, when they're like, snowboarding, it's really dangerous. And even skiing, it's very dangerous. Just small mistakes, you can get hurt. Okay, so but then because they love doing what they're doing, they love their sports, so it doesn't matter to them that they still continue to compete. Just like in this story, that these men coming from other city states, they come to compete even if it's dangerous. They're willing to take the risk, okay, because they want to bring honor to their country. No, city states, okay, just like our modern athletes, they want to bring honor for their country. Okay, class. So that's the first part of the Olympic Games. Um, I cannot finish it all. I'm gonna continue tomorrow the other half. Okay, class. So I want you to think, like, if you are an athlete, what kind of athlete you would wanna be? Which competition you would wanna join in ancient Greece, class? Do you wanna throw a javelin? Do you want to ride a chariot and race? Do you want to ride a horse? Which one? Do you want to just join the wrestling or boxing, or yeah? Tell me, okay? I want you to write that in your paper and tell me. Draw the sports that you like and tell about it, class, okay? For ancient Greece, okay? Alright. See you tomorrow again. Bye.